Well, hello and welcome to another segment of Talk Leadership with Cedrick. You know, everybody needs a little TLC. Talk Leadership with Cedrick is where we focus on leadership and personal growth with business leaders, educators, and local thought leaders. Our goal is to introduce our audience to leaders who are making an impact with innovative ideas. You know, our guiding leadership principle is the law of contribution, which says growing yourself enables you to grow others. So you can't give what you don't have. So first you must grow yourself in order to grow others. So we believe that outstanding leaders like yourself will help us help others. So tonight we have another dynamic leader with us. And you know, every week I like to do a proper introduction of my guest. So let me do a proper introduction of my guest. She's a Louisiana native, first of all, but her name is Miss Amber Doss. So let's welcome Amber to the show. Amber Doss is currently a regional account director for Santa Fe Genzyme Market Access Team. She started her professional career with Pfizer Pharmaceuticals. After 6 years with Pfizer, Amber joined Santa Fe Genzyme as a clinical science associate with the U.S. Rare Disease Business Unit in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And within 18 months, because of her outstanding performance, she was promoted to clinical account associate at the world-renowned Texas Medical Center, where she currently resides. And folks, let me tell you something. If you are in sales, in healthcare sales, and you're covering the Texas Medical Center, you have to be doing some good things. So Amber has been recognized with numerous awards, including the Circle of Excellence and several regional awards. In 2017, she was awarded the U.S. Rare Market Access Preceptorship Program. And Amber has served as a learning champion for the Mid-South region and a therapeutic area champion on the market access team as well. She also serves on Santa Fe's North America Diversity Council, and she's and the Market Access Inclusion and Diversity Council. So we may talk a little bit tonight about diversity and inclusion. She completed an inclusion and diversity preceptorship at Santa Fe and currently serves as a co-lead for the Mosaic Santa Fe's Multicultural Employee Resource Group. Now that's a mouthful, folks, but that's awesome. In addition, Amber serves as the board chair for the National Sales Network Houston chapter. She serves as the director at large for programming for Healthcare Businesswomen Association and the Houston chapter, and also on the board of directors for Project Row Houses in Houston. Amber is a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So go AKAs. In her spare time, she enjoys traveling, working out, hanging out with friends and family, and the Shih Tzu Sweet Pea. I'm gonna have to find out what that is, okay? Now, Amber is a proud graduate of University of Louisiana at Monroe and Louisiana Tech University, where she holds both a bachelor's and a master's of science degree in biology. So Amber, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to start off first. What is Shih Tzu Sweet Pea?
Oh my gosh, that is my baby for the past 14 years. I mean, he is my heart. So he's a little dog, maybe around 20 some odd pounds, little fluffy thing, little puppy dog eyes. Yes, that's my baby.
Okay, all right. I was thinking it was a group or something at first.
No, that's my dog.
That's your dog. All right. Woo, right over my head. All righty. So folks, tonight we're going to just have a conversation with Amber. So if you're have an interest in sales, or if you're in sales, then you need to be staying tuned in to the show tonight. You're going to hear from a high-performing sales professional tonight. And so let's just get started. You know, I read your bio, but our audience really likes to hear from you, you know, your journey to leadership and how did you get to where you are today?
Mhm. So initially, I guess I'll start back in college. So, as you stated in my bio, had a pre-med degree in biology. So I had a bachelor's as well as a master's in biology. So the plan was to go to medical school. And so I got to college, I was excited, especially in my freshman year, and partied a little too hard. So when I graduated, my GPA was like a 3.2, somewhere in there. So the admissions committees were like, why don't you go do a post-bac, show us that you're serious, that you really want to go to med school. So that's what I did. Went to Louisiana Tech. I had 1B in grad school. So I graduated with 3.9. And then I realized I don't want to be in school anymore for another 8 more years. So I had a sorority sister who was in pharmaceutical sales. And she was like, I think you would be awesome in pharmaceutical sales. She was like, why don't you come do a field ride with me, see how you like it. So on that field ride, I just loved it. I loved the interaction. I loved the way she was selling the science, right? So I had an outgoing personality and I had a strong science background. So I thought that was like the ultimate job for me. And then I realized you get a company car and you get a gas card and I was like, oh my God, sign me up. So the thing is, so when I wanted to pivot and not go to med school and get into pharmaceutical sales, I actually started applying when I was in grad school. I made the decision, I'm tired of school. So I started applying, didn't hear anything back from any company, which is not unusual. A lot of times when you don't have experience and you're still in school, they don't even take you serious.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I didn't hear back from anyone, I just stopped, for a few months, graduated, and then probably so I graduated in May, and maybe in June or July, I started, applying again to different pharmaceutical companies. And so did you ever remember that site, Metzilla.com?
Yes.
Okay, so I was on Metzilla. I was up late one night, like 1 o'clock in the morning on Metzilla.com. And so someone put like in the chat, who is the hiring manager for Pfizer in Louisiana? And so they put this man's email, phone number in the chat. I was like, oh my God. Yes. So I emailed him my resume like at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, what do I have to lose? Emailed my resume. The next day, a recruiter from Pfizer called me and said, the hiring manager wanted to set up an interview with me. And so went to the interview and I was like, oh gosh, I bombed that. I don't know what I was thinking. I bombed that. And so like a few days later, he called me back and he said, I want you to come back for a second round of interviews. And so long story short, he told me, he said, okay, he said, I want to offer you this opportunity. He said, I'm taking a chance on you because you have no sales experience. But he said, all I have for you is Alexandria, Louisiana. Now, keep in mind, I already told you I like to party, back in my younger days. And you put me in Alexandria, Louisiana,
The big party city, you mean?
Huh?
The big party city?
Right. The huge party city. But honestly, Alexandria is a really nice family town. Now, I wouldn't recommend, like, if you're young, you're single, you're straight out of college, I wouldn't recommend it. So I told him, I said, listen, I will go to Alexandria. I said, but you have got to get me out of there in 18 months. And so, 18 months to 2 years, I said, that's all I can give you. I said, once I have experience, I can go anywhere at that point.
Right.
And so he was like, well, he said, if you do a great job, he said, I'll make sure that you get promoted. The territory was dead last. That territory moved from dead last to number 1. And I was promoted in 18 months to Baton Rouge, which I love. So loved Baton Rouge, and in the pharmaceutical industry, you're gonna, every year that I started my career with Pfizer, and every year they had layoffs. Every year it was coming. And so I was like, oh gosh, do I want to continue to do this? And so the final year I was in the psychiatry division. And so our drug was about to go off patent. So, all of us kind of saw the writing on the wall. And so we were all just kind of helping each other out, just looking for, other opportunities. So a friend of mine that worked at Pfizer was like, I see this opportunity in Baton Rouge. You should really check it out. And it was with Genzyme. It was right before Sanofi purchased Genzyme. So it was with Genzyme. And so it was the rare disease opportunity. And so I started reading on rare diseases, how they don't have a patent expiration, and how they're truly like advocates for patient, and the impact, just immediate impact, just seemed huge to me. So I was like, oh, let me give it a try. So reached out to the recruiter. The recruiter put me in contact with the hiring manager, and then the rest is history. Started my career with Genzyme, before Sanofi purchased them. They purchased them literally in the same year that I started with Genzyme. And with rare disease, the thing with rare disease is that you find patients for these extremely rare diseases, like 1 in 100,000, 1 in 40,000. So they're extremely hard to find. And I covered the entire state of Louisiana, Arkansas, and Southern Missouri. And so the previous year, the previous rep that was in the territory had found like 2 or 3 patients like the previous year. My first year, I found like 9. And so from there, the opportunity, and I love Baton Rouge. Like, I was not leaving Baton Rouge. You couldn't tell me anything different. And the opportunity opened up in Houston. And I was at a national sales meeting, and I was just networking, with the hiring manager there. And we're just we're just talking over drinks. And I was like, when are you going to fill that position in Houston? And he was like, you want it? And I was like, you cannot be serious. So he's like, you got to interview for it. He's like, I can't just give it to you. You got to interview for it. So I started calling friends like, should I move to Houston? And they were like, are you really asking? Should you be Houston? Absolutely. So that's how I ended up in Houston. And then, while in Houston, again, just continued to be successful and continued to take different leadership roles. I guess my first leadership role here in Houston was a clinical account associate. And so basically covering the Texas Medical Center, but I was basically the quarterback for the team. So I covered the large institutions, and then the team kind of covered the outskirts of the Houston metropolitan area. And so what I would say about that, my first leadership experience was really influencing without authority, because they didn't report to me, but I had to have influence in order for us all to win, right? So in order for us to be successful and win. And then from there, I always had my eyes set on market access. Like, that's something like I always wanted to do, was market access. Became a part of the preceptorship program at Sanofi, and that's when I knew for sure, like, I wanted to get into market access. So I had several mentors that was in the market access space. And finally, my opportunity came at the beginning of this year, right before COVID. I was promoted into a regional account director on the market access team at Sanofi.
Wow. Well, that is awesome. So for folks that don't understand the Texas Medical Center, let's talk about that just a little bit. So first of all, what I'll say is, so the Texas Medical Center is the largest medical center in the world. Yes. Now, in Abbott, when I was a rep, I covered the Texas Medical Center, and then it helped get me promoted. But then I came back as a sales manager and covered the Texas Medical Center. And here's what I would tell reps when I hire them into the Texas Medical Center. I call it the stock market accounts. You see, because if you win big and for a long time. Mm-hmm. But if you lose big and for a long time. Right. So you got to have that motivation, right? So what do you like best about the Texas Medical Center?
I like because there's so many key opinion leaders within the Texas Medical Center. And even though it was a rare disease, like, these were the top physicians that patients would go to. You know what I mean? Like, they would drive from Louisiana, they would drive from all over the country just to get that expertise from these physicians that were right here. So not only, in rare disease, a lot of times, especially when you're not in the Texas Medical Center, and a lot of times with these diseases, like, it's like out of sight, out of mind. They learn about it in medical school. They may or may not see it again. They may not think that they'll see it again. And so, to have that opportunity to work with those thought leaders in the medical center was huge. And then to be able to, a lot of times, reps all across the country were like, I want to use your doctor for our program. And so, I'm setting up for them to go cross country to teach other physicians their expertise. So it's huge. It's huge.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So I see that. Do you know Olivia Laudens?
I do. That's my star.
Yeah, she is.
Hey,
so
Olivia.
She's tuned in. So Olivia used to work on my team, actually.
Oh, I did not know that. How did I know that?
Yes. Wow. So you talked about moving to Alexandria. I moved, when I hired her into Abbott, I moved her to Corpus Christi.
Oh.
Yeah. But she did a outstanding job in Corpus Christi, and within a couple of years, guess what she got promoted to? The
Texas
Texas
Medical
Medical.
Center. Yes.
Exactly. Yes.
So,
So when you perform, that's what happens.
yes.
So you've had a long corporate career, right? Help our audience understand, and you kind of talked about it a little bit, but we didn't point it out. Help our audience kind of understand how flexible you had to be over the years to, take advantage of opportunities that came your way.
You have to be extremely flexible. You have to be extremely flexible because the only constant in corporate America is change. And you have to be, now, COVID may change things, but you have to be flexible to moving as well. If you want to move up the corporate ladder, a lot of times you do have to, move to areas, take that opportunity. So if my hiring manager didn't tell me, only thing I have for you is Alexandria, I could have been like, I'm not moving to Alexandria, and missed out on the opportunity, and I would never have, or who knows what happened. I can't say I'll never have a career, but who knows what happened had I done that. So sometimes, you do have to take that risk, and you have to take that opportunity when it comes your way. And it doesn't necessarily have to be anything long term. It could just be part of the plan to keep you moving forward.
Yes, absolutely. I 100% agree with you. And it's just between you and I talking right here. Sometimes in our culture, we get stuck in, we don't want to move, right? Because we love the city that we're in, or we want to be in the DC, Houston, Dallas, Chicago. We want to be in the major cities,
Right.
And we miss out on an opportunity, and that little small city may be a short-term deal.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that COVID may change things because now, I do think companies are realizing that now that we have no choice but to be home. I know, for instance, even when Sanofi have been posting jobs lately, it's like, this used to be an opportunity where you had to move to the home office. Now you don't have to move to the home office if you don't. So, I'm thinking maybe COVID changes that, where you don't necessarily have to move to the corporate office, but it's still not to say that you won't ever have to move anywhere in order to get opportunities, because in order to get opportunities, at some point you will have to move.
Yes, absolutely. Love that. So you said you are the director of, I just want to kind of get a list of the different jobs you've had, because I want to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're the director. Give me the different jobs you had.
So regional accountant, current is regional account director. Before that, clinical account associate. Before that, clinical science associate. And then before that, I was at Pfizer with therapeutic area specialist. I think that's what they call them.
Okay. That was so long ago. But so my point in asking that question and pointing that out is because what I want people to understand is, along with that flexibility comes these different opportunities, and but along the way, at each point, you learn different things that's going to help you in your career. You learn something in that first job that helped you to get that before that second job, right? Skill set wise or leadership wise. Talk about that.
So I would say I had when I started in Alexandria, I had a mentor that had been in the industry probably, oh gosh, Doug must have been in the industry maybe like 20, 25 years. He was a Hall of Famer, and the Hall of Famer at Pfizer means that you have won basically President's Club for like 7 times. So, I mean, to be able to be like fresh right out of college and to learn from him the way he was successful, and the way that, how organized he was, how disciplined he was, like, he taught me so well. And I think that foundation like stayed with me my entire career, because even when I moved over to Genzyme, it was like there were a lot, there were a lot of tenured people there, right? That had been there forever, had known the role, like knew what to do. I was like, and it wasn't like a lot of clear direction. It was like it was that entrepreneurial spirit. Like you had to figure it out. And I feel like if I didn't have that initial foundation, starting with Doug and Alexandria, I don't think I would have known like where to start, when I did not have anyone holding my hand. So I definitely think that you learn things from people, from colleagues, from mentors, along the way that helps you with that next opportunity.
Yes, absolutely. So how has your team had to adjust in this current time of COVID?
We're zoomed out. We're zoomed out. Basically what it boils down to. Zoom fatigue. We are, oh gosh, it is like we're on Zoom all day long. And so I think it's an adjustment because everyone is at home, everyone's like, oh, this is the perfect time to, take care of this, and this. And so literally from morning to evening, like we're on Zoom. So, we just had to pivot from that. And we're at the end of the day, like we're salespeople. So, we're on a Zoom call all day, sitting in the office. Like we're used to getting on a plane, going to different cities, going to different restaurants. Now, it's the day. It's almost like Groundhog Day every day. So we're trying to adjust. I was telling someone yesterday, I was like, give me a mask and put me on a plane. Like, I'm over it.
Yes, I know. And you really get to understand how much you enjoyed your job, right? Being out and about, right? You have a different appreciation for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Completely different. Because when you travel, like I travel a lot. I have over 1 million Marriott points. I'm lifetime platinum, like, A-list preferred on Southwest. So like when you travel that much, when you're in the middle of it, you're like, oh, I'm tired of living out of this suitcase, until it's taken away from you. And it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh gosh. So yeah.
Can I get a suitcase, please?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And the other thing is, well, it's interesting. I mean, you're not experiencing that yet, but I experienced this when I retired. See, you said it earlier, you get a company car, right? And you get that gas card, right? When I retired, I realized, well, wait a minute. I got to pay for all this stuff now.
I have to pay for it,
so it gets a little bit, it changes your perspective. You appreciate all those things that that you had. Because when I retired, I posted on Facebook, I said, so from 1998 until 2018, I never had to pay for gas.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I understand. I understand. I feel the same way.
It's definitely different.
I can't feel your pain right now, but
yeah, exactly. So, leaders come in all different types of packages and with different strengths, right? What strengths do you feel are important for the successful leaders?
The strength that's important to me, one is self-awareness. I think you have to be aware of yourself and how you project to others, because you may think you're projecting one way, but if it's not coming across like that, like you have to be self-aware, open to feedback, be able to communicate well. I think that's huge too, especially if it's a misunderstanding or if something comes across wrong or if something's not clearly stated, like that's very, very important as well. And then I think the final thing as well for me that's important for me is to be able to handle conflict and conflict resolution. One of my pet peeves is to have a leader that avoids conflict, like never wants to get in a situation, because it's gonna always be some sort of tension or conflict at some point on a team. And the worst thing you can do is avoid it, So I think those are definitely key things that you need to be to be a successful leader.
Leader strengths. All right, perfect. I like that. So I always write these down because every leader has a different list. I always write these down, and I'm gonna actually type them up on the show and put them out there so people can get those. So good leaders ask great questions.
Mm-hmm.
what have been some of the best questions that either you have asked or
Mhm.
someone has asked of you and you went, wow, that's a really good question?
So I think the best question that I personally have asked leaders is, talk to me about your journey. Like, how did you get there? Because I feel like everyone's story is different. And I think sometimes, in life, you may be in one place where you see other people getting promotions and things, and you're like, why not me? What's going on? And I think it's in timing, but everybody's journey is different, and you don't know what that person had to do to get to that point in their journey. So I always love to ask leaders, like, what was your journey, and how did you get to where you were? I remember when I first got promoted into market access, and someone was like, oh my gosh, that's what I wanted to do. I need your role. I wanted your role. And I was like, honey, it took me 3 years of networking, preceptorship programs, constantly staying in contact. Like, you never know what, someone has to do, like, to get there. But I want to know that journey, because I need to know, like, what steps did you take, especially if it's a path that I want to take. Maybe I can take a similar step, or I can learn from some of the mistakes that a leader has made and make sure that I don't make the same mistake on my journey.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. 100% agree with you. So what makes you smile? You're like, every time I see you, you're just always like, you're happy. You have this big, pretty smile. So what makes you smile when you get up in the morning?
When I get up in the morning, I think what makes me smile is like what I do. I think we genuinely, especially in rare disease, I feel like when you're in pharma, when you're in outside of rare disease, you know that you are helping a patient, but it's almost like indirect.
Mm-hmm.
When I got into rare disease, you can directly see the impact of our medications. They're life changing. Patients need it, or they'll die within that rare disease space. So it's always just about making impact. And now in market access, just making sure that our patients have access to our medications. So I think every day is different, but every day I know I'm providing impact, and so that makes me happy.
Awesome.
And Sweetie waking me up early in the morning to
Oh,
feed him.
Well, she's probably happy because she gets to see a whole lot more of you right now.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, well, he sleeps about 21 hours out the day. So
Oh.
I was like, is this all you do all day? Like, let's switch. Let me do your role, and you come take my role.
So, what are 2 or 3 things that an individual can do to help them get into sales?
Mm.
Because I hear people all the time will say, even within a sin, is, well, I want to get into sales. I want to get into pharmaceutical sales.
Mm. So one thing that I tell people is that's looking to get into sales is that you have to network. Network is very important, because you have to find that person that's willing to take a chance on you if you don't have sales experience. And the only way that they will do that is if you are networking with them, if you are calling them, if they see, if they're around you, they see how you, represent yourself. They see how your conversation is, they see if you're hungry for the role. Some of those things can't be taught. Like, you can't teach some of the skills that you need for sales. Some things can't be taught. So there are people that are definitely willing to take a chance on you, if they see skill sets in you that can't be taught. And so the way that they're able to even see that is to network. So I do think organizations like National Sales Network is a perfect opportunity for people to network with people in the industry, or leaders in the industry.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is that I'll add to you, because I love what you said on the networking piece. Is just I think people underutilize it sometimes, or they don't utilize it in the right way, I should say. But the other thing is, I think that people should understand the exact type of sales they want to go. Because I'll hear people say, "Hey, Cedrick, help me get into pharmaceutical sales," right? Because that's what I did. Well, I said I worked for a pharmaceutical company, but I wasn't on our pharmaceutical side. right? I was on our capital equipment side. So there's a difference. And you have to understand, do you want to go into doctor's offices every day and you got 3 to 5 minutes in, or you want to go into a hospital laboratory and you're going to be, you may have a 30-minute, an hour-long meeting, and it's deep dive questioning. It's not just telling what's on the in the the clinical indications for this medication. Or do you want to be go in the surgical suite, right? You got to understand which area of this healthcare sales you want to go into, because they're all different. They all require different skill sets. So it's important to understand that before you just say, this is what I want to do.
Mm, I agree. And actually talk to people about their role and see what they like and see what they don't like. It sounds good to have a company car and gas card, but if you get into it and realize this is not something you want to do, so definitely, in addition to networking with leaders, network with reps, the positions that you're seeking, to see what they like about it, what they don't like about it, to make sure that that's something that you want to do. I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know if like back in the day when I was able to do a ride along with my sorority sister, I don't know if that's still possible. I know a lot of companies have stopped that.
Yeah, I think, well, I can only speak in the area I was over. I did it. I don't know that we had an official stance on it one way or the other, but I did it because I wanted the person to understand what they were getting into if they wanted to go down this route. Now, everybody that called me didn't get it just to go on the ride along.
Right.
You had to, have gone through the interview process, and I said, okay, this is a viable candidate, right? Because otherwise we'd have a whole bunch of people just doing ride-alongs all the time.
Right.
So now that a person has landed that high-performing sales job, right? That I would say high-performing, high-paying sales job, because what sometimes people don't realize is this is not cut out for everybody.
Right.
You have to be ready to perform at a high level. And I tell people, look, it doesn't matter what your salary is. You're considered a highly compensated person because you got a company car, you got all the benefits. You're normally going to have a good salary. You're going to have this bonus opportunity. So when we're compensating you up here, we're expecting performance up here. Right. So now that a person has landed that high performing sales job, help our audience understand 1 or 2 things that they should do to keep that job, to stay hungry every day.
Well, you have to perform. You have to perform because one thing, as I said in the beginning, one thing about pharma particularly is change, right? So a lot of times when a layoff comes, they're looking at performance reviews, they're looking at your end of the year reviews, so you want to make sure that you are in good standing. You want to make sure you're collaborative. You want to, if you have someone on your team like my Doug Garrett that's won 7 times, obviously he has the sauce, right? So you go and reach out and see what they've done when you get in a rut, when you get frustrated, because it is going to happen. See what other successful people have done in those times. I mean, there's so many people with a lot of experience that can really guide you in the right direction. I think the mistake that people make when they get in pharmaceutical sales is saying, oh, I have this good job, especially straight out of college. I have this good job. I have this company car. I have this gas card. And then they can't even wake up in the morning to go because no one is tapping you on your shoulder at 7, 8, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. Hey, it's time to go to work. You can be waking up at 10, rolling into an office at 12 and expecting to see results. So you also have to have self-discipline as well to make sure that you don't lose that opportunity that you've been given.
So performance and self-discipline. I absolutely love that. And I will say, if you're getting ready, if you're out there in the audience and you're getting ready to go on an interview, and the hiring manager is going to be that person that is interviewing you, then you need to show up on time, or show up at the location before the hiring manager gets there. I remember having an interview with a young man. Now I live in Houston. I was interviewing him for Baton Rouge. I,
Oh,
I drove that morning to Baton Rouge, got to the Marriott Hotel right there on I-10, and I'm sitting there waiting. 9 o'clock gets in, and he's still not here. We're supposed to start the interview at 9.
oh, wow.
9:15 rolls around, and he walks in, and he says, "Hey, traffic was horrible." Well, wait a minute, time out. I drove from Houston this morning.
Right. And you're there.
I'm here. Yeah. I said, well, we can have breakfast at this point because there's no interview.
Oh, oh.
No, I'm not because it goes back to your point earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to be there saying, "Hey, get up. It's time to go to work." So if the interview, if you're not on time for the interview, after I hire you, how do I know you're going to be on time at Our Lady of the Lake?
Correct.
At Oshner, right? I can't have that. Right. So yeah, let's just have breakfast and call it a day. Right. You got free breakfast. So what role, well, actually we kind of talked about it. You talked about networking. So I don't even have to go down that question because I was going to ask you about networking. So we are at the halfway point. Here is a segment I call, Would You Rather? All right.
Okay.
So here we go. Would you rather meet your great grandparents or meet your great grandchildren?
Oh, so I met my great grandparents. So I would love to meet my great grandchildren.
Okay. All right. So would you rather have more time or more money?
Oh, can I have both? I would probably, to be honest, I would go with time because time gives you the opportunity to spend it with your loved ones. And I mean, COVID is definitely teaching that to cherish each moment. Every day is not guaranteed. So I would go with time.
Absolutely. Now, this is going to be a tough one here. I love this one. So would you rather have no one show up at your wedding or no one show up at your funeral?
I would say no one show up at my wedding because really it's supposed to be about me and my husband. So, really the most important part of that day is he and I. So if nobody shows up, like we're okay.
Yeah, plus at your funeral, you're not going to know anyway, right?
Well, I'm not exactly. There you go.
All right. So last one. Would you rather have $1 million in Amazon gift cards or $100,000 in real money?
Real money, because I can reinvest it.
Okay. All right. See, I always say I'm going to take the $1 million in Amazon gift cards because I'm buying everything on Amazon anyway.
That is true.
And I'm going to try to buy me some gift cards and turn that into cash. Didn't read that.
Oh, look at you. Okay, look at you. Well, that's a good way to think about it. I'm just thinking about investing the real money.
Yeah. No,
I do live on Amazon, though.
Yeah, exactly. Amazon. It's a good day when you see that truck come out there and you got that smile on that box. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what did I order again?
Exactly. I had some of mine on automatic shipment. I'm like, now what is this now?
Exactly. So thanks for playing that segment of Would You Rather. So, growth is intentional. We say the law of intentionality says growth doesn't just happen. You have to be intentional in order for growth to happen. So what do you do for personal and professional growth?
What I personally do, definitely take courses, read, and also, I also get feedback from like my manager or my peers on things that I could work on, Again, that brings you to the point of self-awareness. You may think you're coming across one way when you're really coming off another way. So I think that's how you grow too. Just be willing to take feedback from others in order to help grow you.
Awesome. So what advice would you give an emerging leader about finding leadership opportunities or ways to help fulfill their professional toolbox?
Tell you what, this is one thing that I came across on accident. Seriously, no joke. So I am like, I do a lot with I&D within Sanofi. I also lead our multicultural ERG. But the way that it all came about was when I was the Houston chapter president. Sanofi wanted to start the NSN Houston. I don't know if I said. I think I just said Houston chapter president. NSN Houston chapter president. Sanofi wanted to start going to the career fairs, so they really used me as a liaison because I was the president, basically, to talk to them of the lay of the land of the career fair, kind of what are the best options, the approach, and things like that. So I got really, really, really involved in it, and already just having a passion for making sure that minorities get opportunities that we typically don't get in corporate America. Like that's always been a passion of mine. And so the employee resource group actually had reached out to me. They just wanted to just kind of hear some of the ideas. And I was like, have you all ever thought about having like a work stream that just kind of focuses on recruitment, but also retaining talent when they get here? Because it's one thing to recruit talent into a company. It's a different thing is if they get there and they don't feel comfortable and they don't feel inclusive because all they're going to do is leave. So they created this work stream and I ended up being the lead of it. It was outreach, recruitment, and retention. And so a lot of what I did within that work stream was working with like the National Sales Network, the National Black MBA at their conferences and things like that. And then when the opportunity, came to be the North America co-lead for the Mosaic ERG, that's kind of how it all came about. But it really was just based on what my passion was, and passion in helping, minorities get opportunities that they typically wouldn't. And so from there, it just, once I became the North America co-lead for Mosaic, it brings you so much exposure to senior leaders throughout the business, like more so than in your functional role. In your functional role, you have your direct manager, you have, your manager's manager, things like that. And so, they're like the only ones that know you, right? And so when it comes to year-end reviews and they're all in the room, it's like, well, what do I know about this person? What do I know about this person? When you get involved with an employee resource group and you get access to so many leaders throughout the company because different initiatives and things that you're working on, people are able to see you outside of your functional role, and people are able to, when opportunities come up for exposure. I think exposure is a huge piece for an emerging leader that wants to get into leadership, because if no one knows you, they're not going to, hire you. And a lot of times, I don't care what anyone says, a lot of these roles, people already have an idea of who they want for the role before the role is even posted. So right. If you're interested in the role, is once the role is posted, you are already behind the 8 ball unless you completely blow the interview out and they're like, oh gosh, we have to have this person. So it has a lot to do with, being involved with employee resource groups gives you that exposure you need. And you don't necessarily have to be the North America co-lead. You could be on a work stream, and that work stream, work stream leads or even work stream committees, it's still, depending on what project they're working on, it still gives you exposure to leaders outside of your functional role, and to also showcase skill sets that you have outside of your functional role. Mm-hmm. So it was one, like, I never, went there like, oh, let me just join this employee resource group, let me get active. It literally came from a passion that just grew into something so much bigger.
No, that's awesome. That's a great recommendation. So exposure for emerging leaders by getting involved in things that you're passionate about, things that you're interested in, but finding out what type of programs that the organization either currently has, or maybe they don't have, and you make a recommendation to help bring that program right along. So yeah, that's awesome. So while we're in that HR area, let's talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I noticed that you are the lead, or one of the leads in your. I'm not sure how you guys are structured, but one of the leads, at least for your diversity and inclusion programs within Santa Fe. So why did you? Why was that important to you?
So I think it's important, and I'll be honest, I think it has been a corporate shift after the George Floyd murder. Like, I think that inclusion and diversity has always been, serious at Sanofi, but I think that just took it to a whole nother level. You know what I mean? And I think that, prior to the George Floyd murder, like I've always done things within IND preceptorship program. I think it's and then specifically within market access, just market access in general, overall, don't have a lot of minorities. Market access is known for basically white males. That's it. They're starting to get females, but still, when you get to minorities, when you get to Black, Hispanic, Asian, they're just not there. The opportunities are not there. And so, with the pretty much every business unit within Sanofi has now created each business unit pretty much has created their own little IND segment of how they want to increase diversity and get more equity in these roles that, typically were lacking. And so, there's really been some serious conversations, and I think it's just amplified. I think after the George Floyd murder, everything just amplified to the umpteenth degree. Things that, it was like, I don't know if we can do that. We don't want to ruffle any feathers. I think those days now, conversations are being had. Racism is being talked about in the workplace where that was taboo at first. So, I've always been so passionate about the IND journey, just because even starting in pharmaceutical sales, when you go to a sales meeting and this, it could be a handful of us. You know what I mean? It's a handful of us at every meeting. So I've always had a passion for helping others that look like me get into this industry.
Sure. Yes. And, there's a program out there it's called Another Seat at the Table. And it's a diversity, equity, and inclusion program. And it focuses on helping organizations and individuals within the organization identify the role that they play within this. So you have you have all the way from you have your champions, you have your people who are going to be your hesitators, you have your people who are going to be your obstructors, you have your influencers, so in this training you help each person identify where they are, right? And in this journey, now once they identify, then you're helping them have a conversation with each other, with their teammates, right? And you set the parameters up. Hey, in these four walls, we're going to talk about this. And it may get heated because you may say something that offends or hurts someone else. But we have to have the conversation. And I think this is where organizations have missed the boat in the past. They were afraid to have the conversation because they were uncomfortable.
Correct.
Right.
Absolutely.
And you're absolutely right that organizations have definitely stepped up their game. We still have a long way to go, but they've stepped up their game since the George Floyd incident. And so that's good. So why do you think organizations have been afraid to address this in the past?
Because it's been an uncomfortable conversation to the majority. And so when anything that's uncomfortable, it goes again to what I was telling you about conflict. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to, because even in this journey, we still get a lot of pushback, even in this, in this journey of, people thinking it's not important, and, the best person should get the job. And I'm not saying the best person should not get the job, but let's provide equal opportunity for the best person to get the job.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it's it's still a struggle, and conversations are, people are still hesitant to have conversations. But I think a pivotal moment specifically for me was, the market access team. We have our monthly meeting, and our leader said, and when I went to management training, we were taught not to talk about race, religion, politics. So that could be a piece of it too. You're taught not to talk about that. Those are off limits. And afterwards, I even had a conversation with my manager, and she was like, "That's why I never bring it up. Like we're taught not to talk about that." So it's almost like you have to reverse that. You have to reverse that thinking, because if we don't talk about it, nothing will ever change. We can't continue to push it under the rug. And I think organizations are starting to realize that.
Right. Yeah. And my guest last night, who's a retired CEO for a healthcare company, and he said, that statement of the best person gets the job. He said that statement in of itself has been um, wrapped into prejudicial performance or expectations in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So it was always the best person was not necessarily um, a minority person. It was the best person for the job, and that in a lot of cases it means someone that looks like me,
Mm-hmm.
meaning him, right? And he goes,
Mm-hmm.
so you got to unravel that. You got to,
Yes.
yes, we want the most qualified person to get the job. But sometimes you have to say, okay, this person here may not meet the word of most qualified. They are qualified for the position, but most qualified, but that they have the ability and they meet all the other criteria to do the job. So then you have to say, okay, I'm going to give them this opportunity. Right. Otherwise, you stay in the same boat, and whether you're in a all white area or you're in an all black area or all Hispanic, what's going to happen is you're going to hire someone that looks just like you.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what we're comfortable with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Well, keep that keep that up and leading your organization in that area. So you've had a really successful career. Now, we've all, though, had times where we failed with something, right? So tell us about one thing that one failure that you've had and what you learned from it.
Mm-hmm. I would have to say one failure that I had when I was working for Pfizer and I was in Baton Rouge and I wanted a promotion to New Orleans and I didn't get the role. Like, I thought I was the best person for the job. That was my job. I was going to get that job and I did not get the role. And the feedback was, what was the feedback? It was maybe the feedback was I wasn't a good fit or something to that effect, And so I
Mhm.
was like, devastated basically. And so, but what I learned from it is that, I didn't have some of the skill sets that I probably needed for that role. Like it was a hospital role. I was still fairly new in pharma. And so it was some of the things, it was probably some of the skill sets that I didn't particularly have for that role. I don't know. I can't say, I'm saying that it said it wasn't a good fit. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but all I know is I was devastated. I didn't get that job. So I go to New Orleans and yeah, it didn't work out. However, it ended up working out in the end for the best because had I gotten that role, I probably wouldn't be where I am now. So I always feel like, things happen for a reason and a season. And if it did not happen, it was not meant to be and it was not for you. Another thing I'll say as well before I started with Genzyme, I really, really wanted to go to another company. And I didn't get that role. And so I was devastated that I did not get that role. And then the Genzyme role came, and it was literally the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Like the roles were two totally different roles. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was not supposed to have that role. Like I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. So I know sometimes when we don't get things or things don't go our way, we're thinking that, oh my gosh, life is over, but it's not. It's really not. Something better, something bigger and better is going to come along.
Yes, absolutely. So one of my good friends, Dr. Greg Salter, said, and this was going back on the diversity, equity, and inclusion. He said, you have to also unpack how that person got the qualifications and training to be the most qualified. And
Right.
totally agree with that comment. Thanks, Doc.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and so getting back to your point in terms of getting that role and not getting that role, yeah, it's always devastating, right? When we prepare, we're all ready, we know that, oh yeah, I got this job, this is, boom, I did the interview, it did it so well, and then all of a sudden you get, we went in a different direction, and it's just like devastating to you. And
Right.
Um, but I like your point is that doesn't mean you need to pack up your tent and quit and pout and all that type stuff, right? Maybe you go in your house and pout for a little bit, but then you
Exactly.
pick it back.
Yeah, you had your pity party. I'm not saying don't have a pity party. I had a pity party. I'm not saying I have a pity party, but I'm saying something better is around the corner.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's funny. So what's next for you in life and in your career?
Career-wise, I think there were so many opportunities. When I first started my career, I just wanted to be in pharmaceutical sales. I just wanted to be a sales rep. But then as my, career has evolved, I've realized there's so much more out there. Again, it goes back to being a part of employee resource group and just seeing what else is out there. I mean, you can go into patient advocacy, you can go into global, you can go into public affairs, and literally like the skill sets that you learn in sales help prepare you for those levels. It's just knowing about them and having the right mentor and the right opportunity come along.
Yeah.
So I don't know. All I know is the sky's the limit.
I love that. So
There's
folks,
so many
hear
opportunities
what
out there.
she's saying. I love it. The sky is the limit for her. I absolutely love that. And knowing Amber like I do, I know that the sky is definitely the limit. So that's awesome. So if someone wants to stay in contact with you or reach out to you and ask you some questions or whatever, how can they reach you?
So I'm not really on social media. So LinkedIn is really the only thing only social media that I'm a part of, and the only social media you'll probably get any response from me on. So definitely LinkedIn. Look me up on LinkedIn. Happy to connect. Absolutely. That's the best way.
Awesome. Or when NSN Houston chapter has an event, come and Amber will be there and you can connect with her there as well.
There you go. Absolutely.
So actually, not next to the last question, I do want to talk about NSN Houston chapter because you were our president for the last 4 years, and let me tell you what, talking about great leaders, Ms. Amber Doss is a great leader. One chapter a year, probably every year, just dynamic in terms of leading the organization. So let's just talk a little bit about NSN and NSN Houston. And so why should someone join the National Sales Network National Sales Network Houston chapter?
If you're looking to be in sales, like I say, to my point earlier, it's a great networking opportunity, networking with different professionals, you have reps, you have leaders. That's a great opportunity. If you are a seasoned person in sales, it's a good opportunity to give back and be a mentor to someone. I think it's so important as we continue to move up that corporate ladder that we're able to pull our younger generation with us and be a mentor. So I definitely think it's great for mentorship as well. And then also, if you're not in sales and you're like, I'm not a salesperson, why would I join National Sales Network? If, whatever role that you're in, you're selling yourself every day, right? You are selling yourself. You are the product, no matter what, and no matter if you're a teacher, no matter if you're an astronaut, whatever, you're selling yourself every day. And really, it gives you the platform to be able to get out of your comfort zone, network with, like-minded individuals, and just really just a great opportunity, especially for, a lot of times we have senior leaders that come in from all across the country that you can have an opportunity to connect with. So I think it's just a great opportunity for anyone, and you don't have to be in sales to be a part of the National Sales Network.
Absolutely. So the last question is, if there was a book written about you, what would the title be, and what would it say on the back of the book in the summary about you?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Let me see. What would the title be? Fierce. Fierce. I'll say fierce. Okay. And then the back would be it's a quote. Oh gosh, I can't think of it now. It was a quote. It was something to the effect of she created the life she wanted, or something like that. It was something to that effect. So I just feel like life is ever evolving. Life is ever changing. You just have to be resilient. You just have to be persistent. You just, can't give up on yourself, and the sky's the limit.
Absolutely. Absolutely love that. That's a great way to end the show. Thank you very much, for coming on the show. Hopefully you had a good time.
I had a great time with you as always, Ed. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. So, folks, at 6:30 in like a few seconds here, I will be live on the Black Entrepreneurs Institute live show on the Empowered Living Facebook channel. Every week we have this live show, and this week we have Miss Tori Raven. She was a high-profile high school athlete and a high-profile college basketball player. She played for Texas A&M. So I want all you Aggies to be over there tuning in. Tori Raven is going to be talking about her entrepreneur journey. She now owns 2 companies, an apparel company, and on a College of Texas A&M, she owns a espresso company. So join us here in just a few seconds over on the Empowered Living channel, and then come back here at 7:30 for Talk with TK. She's going to be talking about her Mindset 180 Academy. So if you want to get your mindset right, tune back in here at 7:30 tonight. And then Thursday, Talk Leadership with Cedrick on the radio happens every Thursday at 4 p.m. Central. So tune in on ibgr.network. I will see you next week for Talk Leadership with Cedrick. Everybody needs a little TLC. Have a good evening.